The Kia EV6 is the hottest new EV to hit the roads, and as expected, the dealer markups are out of control. In this video, I'll share my absolutely crazy story of how I bought my EV6 at MSRP, show you how you can benefit from what I learned, and get your EV6 without any markups. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I've been in the market for a new EV ever since the lease on a BMW i3S ended late last year. Click on the link in the top right of your screen to watch that video. I've been considering the Polestar 2, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and the Kia EV6. The Kia EV6 has been at the top of my list because of the advanced tech it has, the superior range, and the crossover body style, which works well for a family. I also was very lucky to get a reservation for the EV6 First Edition. For those who are not familiar with the First Edition, it is a limited run of only 1,500 EV6s offered in the US. These feature a unique combination of interior and exterior packages that are not available on the mainstream EV6 trims. At time of reservation, the EV6 First Edition was advertised with an MSRP of $58,500. The order books for the First Edition opened up in June of 2021, and the entire run of 1,500 cars was sold out in one day. In order to reserve one, you had to pick a color combination, put down a $100 refundable deposit, and pick from a choice of free gifts that Kia was offering. Importantly, you also had to select a dealer where you would finalize the sale and pick up the car. I chose the matte gray color and picked the Apple Watch as my free gift. Since I've never purchased a Kia before, I picked a dealer that was close to my home. Fast forward 9 months to February 2022, and the EV6s, including the First Editions, start showing up in showrooms. Along with that come news reports of crazy markups on the EV6s. Now, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, the state with the largest number of EVs in the country. So, EVs are in high demand here, and the dealers don't shy away from outrageous markups. When I contacted my dealer to inquire about when my First Edition would arrive, he let me know it was expected at the end of Feb or early March. He also confirmed that all First Editions sold at his dealership would have a market adjustment and be fitted with dealer accessories. Sure enough, I began to see a few First Editions show up on their website with a market adjustment of $5,000 and about $2,000 in added dealer accessories. So this is about $7,000 over MSRP. At an MSRP of $58,500, the EV6 First Edition is likely the most expensive Kia ever sold. Adding another $7,000 was outrageous, and I simply wasn't willing to pay any markup. In my opinion, at MSRP, the car is worth the cost when you compare it to its competition. Paying any more than that is simply a waste of money. Disappointingly, also, Kia's response to a news article about markups around that time showed that they weren't going to take any action against dealer markups. I didn't have much hope that Kia would intervene. About the same time, I had been researching more into the matte paint and was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with how much maintenance it needs. Any stains needed to be removed immediately, and the cleaning recommendation was to only hand wash. Given our busy schedules, I just wasn't sure that I needed that extra hassle. So, with the anticipated dealer markup on my First Edition and the prospect of a high-maintenance matte paint, I started looking at other EV6s that didn't have the matte paint. I went to a dealer that's a couple of miles from my home to take a look at a few EV6s. They were asking a $10,000 markup on the car and would not let me test drive it unless we had agreed on a price first. To which I responded, how could I decide what the car was worth unless I had driven it? The sales guy told me that they didn't want miles added to a car that was going to be sold, and that he would contact me when they had a demo. Another local dealer we went to was asking a $15,000 markup. But because they wanted to move the cars, they were willing to give us a 50% discount on the markup. How generous of them. But we walked. After seeing a few cars in person, I also had decided that I really wanted the yacht blue color. I just think it looks fantastic. So the spec I wanted was the GT line all-wheel drive in yacht blue. That's what I wanted, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less. Now, it turns out that that spec is particularly hard to find. I couldn't find any of those at my local Bay Area dealers. I then reached out to a large volume dealer in Southern California about 400 miles away. They were showing a stock of about 50 EV6s on their website, so I thought to myself that surely they would be selling at MSRP. The sales guy I talked to there said they didn't have my exact spec on the lot, but that one would be coming the next day. He tried to get me to agree to a markup, but we settled on $2,000 worth of dealer accessories. I would also have to purchase the car within 24 hours of the car arriving on their lot, which meant that I would have to fly down on short notice. I asked him to let me know how I could put a deposit down on the car. An hour later, he called and told me that the car coming the next day had already been promised to someone else. But there was another exact match coming in a week, and he was going to hold that car for me. Again, I asked him how I could put a deposit down on it. He called back an hour later and told me that someone else was offering $8,000 over MSRP. He was doing his best for me, but it's just business. He asked me if I was open to any other colors because they had a bunch of those on the lot. I told him no, and then I never heard from him again. At this point, I'm beginning to see the pattern and realize just how difficult this is going to be to get my exact spec at MSRP. So I went on cars.com and cast a wide net. I reached out to dealers that showed the same price for MSRP and sale price on their website, assuming that there would be no markup on these cars. I reached out to dealers all across the country, all the way from California to Rhode Island. Most of them responded back saying that they were marking up their cars anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 over MSRP. However, there were a few dealers that did actually respond that they were selling at MSRP. I'll be sure to share those names with you in a bit. But unfortunately, the yacht blue GT lines that they had all been pre-sold. In one case, I just missed out by an hour. At this point, I'm dealing with sleepless nights and feeling frustrated and hopeless. I'm about ready to throw in the towel on my search and buy a Polestar 2 instead. But then I get an email from a dealer who has the exact car I'm looking for, and it's still available. He even sends me a detailed purchase quote outlining all the costs and the final purchase price. There's no markups, no added dealer accessories, and no hidden dealer fees. The entire transaction is straightforward and transparent. He even takes the extra time to research what it takes to do an out-of-state sale and outlines the entire process. And they would actually hold the car a week or two at the dealership to give me time to fly out and complete the sale. However, there is one catch. The dealer is in New York State, 3,000 miles away from me in California, and I need to come in person to the dealership to complete the sale. At this point, I'm in too deep. This has become a mission, and nothing is going to stand between me and my EV6. So I go ahead and put down a refundable $1,000 deposit to secure the car. A week later, when the car arrives at the dealership, I leave sunny California, fly out on a red-eye, change planes in Detroit, and head to snowy New York. There I head to the dealership, test drive the car, and learn more about the features. I head over to do all the registration and finance paperwork. Everything is clear and transparent. The finance manager has even made a few calls on my behalf and gotten me a great finance rate. Everything goes smoothly, just as an ideal transaction should. I sign all the papers and become the proud owner of this gorgeous yacht blue Kia EV6 GT line all-wheel drive. Now, I know you're probably thinking this guy is crazy. He flew all across the country to buy a Kia EV6. And yes, I'll admit that was a bit extreme. I've bought many cars before and I've never done anything quite like this. But we live in crazy times, and I was inflexible in the spec I wanted and needed the car now. I couldn't wait months for it. And if you're a car enthusiast like me, you know we'll go far to get what we want. I just wasn't willing to pay any markup for it. If you're flexible with the specs of the car you want and are willing to wait, your experience certainly doesn't have to be as crazy. But as crazy as the story has been so far, believe it or not, it actually gets crazier. Now I have to get the car from New York to California. Before flying out to New York, I had decided that I didn't want to drive the car across the country in winter weather and put a few thousand miles on it. So I had decided to ship it. We had gone online and gotten a few quotes from a number of shippers. We picked one that had a competitive price, had good online reviews, and were communicating well. I bought the car on a Monday and had scheduled the shippers for Tuesday. I was told that they had drivers in the area and that would not be a problem. Before flying back home, I had confirmed with the shippers and they had told me that a driver would be by to pick up the car on Tuesday between 2 and 4. Well, come Tuesday, there's no driver. There's no driver on Wednesday either. Throughout Tuesday and Wednesday, I've been calling the shippers and I'm getting the runaround about how they're trying to contact the driver. A few of my voicemails also go unreturned. Now I'm back to sleepless nights, stress, and feel like my head's about to explode. So on Thursday, I start calling around to other shippers. Through my conversations, I begin to understand just how this business works. The shipper contracts with a client, like me, and then posts the job on a national load board. There, drivers respond and pick the jobs that they want to take. One of the shippers I was talking to was able to look on the board and find my job. I had been quoted a price of $1,550 from my shipping company. Well, my job was posted on the board for $1,800, which means that the shipping company hadn't been able to find a driver willing to do the job for $1,550, and so they had upped the price to $1,800. Of course, they hadn't told me about this change in price. If a driver had actually accepted the job at a higher price, then they would have come back to me, done a bait and switch, and gotten me to agree to the higher price. So, on Friday, I called my contracted shipper again. That's when they told me that they could ship my car for $2,800. That's way up from the $1,550 they had quoted me. So I promptly fired them on the spot. Now I'm not saying this is everyone's experience with car shippers. I'm sure many people have a good experience. But I'm just sharing what happened with me. I then reached out to a friend who is in the moving business and got the name of a shipper that he trusts. This shipper doesn't use the national load board, but instead they work with drivers that they have built relationships with over the years. They gave me a very clear and transparent quote, and I contracted with them for $2,400 to ship my car from New York to California. They picked it up, and about 5 days later, my car was dropped off and my baby was finally home. So, was it all worth it? Yes, now that I have the car, I think it was all worth it. I really like the car so far. I'm glad I held out for the exact spec I wanted. I think anything else would have made me unhappy. The blue is stunning and the car is great, except for a couple of items that I'll get to in a future video. But I'm not particularly happy about the $3,000 I had to spend to fly out and ship the car. That's more than what I had anticipated paying when I had embarked on this purchase. But that's likely less than any markup I would have paid in the Bay Area. And that money went to hardworking people in the airline and shipping industries, so I feel good about that. I'm glad I stuck to my principles and didn't pay any markup. That would have just encouraged the dealership to charge the next customer a markup. Had I known there would be so much drama around the shipping, I probably would have just driven the car cross-country myself. But perhaps asking, was it worth it, is the wrong question. Perhaps the more relevant question is, why was this so hard? For comparison, my brother-in-law just bought a Tesla Model 3. He configured the car online and put a deposit online. The price was fixed, there was no haggling or having to deal with dealer shenanigans. When the car was built, he completed all the financial and registration formalities online. Once that was done, a Tesla employee brought the car to his house and spent time showing him all the features. It was that easy. His experience compared to mine is like day and night. If the legacy manufacturers and the broken dealer system can't reform itself, they will simply get eaten up by the likes of Tesla and all the other manufacturers who are using the transparent, no-haggle, fixed-price model. Only the craziest amongst us will put up with all this dealership nonsense. Also, in all of this, Kia, the manufacturer, has a role to play too. While Kia is spending millions on warm and fuzzy Super Bowl commercials, they're ignoring the cold, harsh reality buyers face, as they are gouged to the tune of thousands of dollars by greedy dealers. I know markups are not illegal and that dealerships are independent franchisees that can set their own prices. But I'm also aware that manufacturers have leverage over dealers. Other manufacturers like Ford and GM are willing to exercise that leverage over their dealerships. And now this even includes Kia's sister companies, Hyundai and Genesis. So why is Kia silent on the issue of markups? They seem to be unwilling or unable to do anything about it. So until the market conditions change or Kia takes some action, here's how you can benefit from my experience and get your EV6 without any markups. For me, the road to buying an EV6 without markups has been a minefield, full of greedy dealers and bait-and-switch shippers. But despite that, there are still honest, good businesses out there, and I want to reward them. So, I want to share some resources with you that I hope will make your shopping experience easier and hope that you'll support the ethical dealers. Now, there's been a trend to name and shame dealers who are selling above MSRP, but looks like most of them are in that category now. So, I want to do something different. I want to name the dealers that are selling without markups. First, I'm going to share with you a list of dealers that I came across in my search. You can find this list in the description section of this video. Click on the Show More button on your computer or the down arrow button on your mobile, and it will expand to show you the list. My list is a small list, but there is also a larger list available online. In full disclosure, I don't have anything to do with this larger list. I haven't created it, nor do I maintain it. The information on it is community sourced, so I can't vouch for its accuracy. However, I did find the information to be mostly accurate during my search, and it was helpful to me. The link to that list is also in the description section. What's nice about it is that you can change the amount of markup you're willing to pay, and it will show you the matching dealers. If you're considering EVs other than the Kia EV6, you can also search for those dealers selling those cars. Now, before you get too excited, keep in mind dealer inventories are low and a number of cars may already be pre-sold. If you can remain flexible about the spec you want, you may still be able to find a match. But also consider getting on a dealer's wait list to be matched with the car that they have been allocated. Also, seriously consider custom ordering a car. In the US, we're used to walking into a dealership and driving off with a car. That's not the case in many other parts of the world. There, you go to a dealership, test drive the car, and then place an order. That order then takes a few weeks or months to be fulfilled. That may be a new concept for us in the US, but with the current shortages that we are facing, that may just be the new purchasing model we have to get used to. Based on recent comments from the AutoNation CEO, it doesn't look like we're going back anytime soon to the days of bloated dealer inventories. Manufacturers are also taking note, and some of them, like Lincoln, are moving towards that model. As far as long waits go, if you're looking to buy a Tesla, you are looking at a long wait for a Model Y. Custom orders for the EV6 have just opened up, so consider that option if you have time on your side and can wait for a car. Find a dealer that is willing to sell without markup and place your order with them. But please, 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 be sure to get the terms for any pricing or purchase agreements in writing and signed by a manager. This will ensure that there are no disputes or surprises when the car arrives. In the description section, I'm also sharing a few other resources that might be helpful to you. There's links to a Kia EV6 forum and a couple of Facebook groups. I encourage you to visit and join these groups, as members there regularly share information about dealers that are selling at MSRP. If you need to ship your car, watch out for those bait and switch shippers. I will also share the name of the good shipping company that I used in the description below. And in case you're wondering, no, I'm not getting any commissions, kickbacks, referrals, or any other kind of compensation from the businesses I have listed. On the driver download, you, the drivers, come first. I hope you find this information helpful in your search for an EV6. Please support my channel by liking the video and subscribing. Please also consider becoming a monthly Patreon member. Or if you would rather make a one-time donation, small or large, please do so on Buy Me a Coffee. Links to both sites are in the description below. Now that I have the car, I'm planning on making some exciting videos with it, including an epic summer road trip. If there is anything you would like to learn about the car, please let me know in the comments below and I'd be happy to make a video. I wish you the best of luck in your search for an EV6. If you have any thoughts about what I have shared, please let me know in the comments below. And if you end up buying an EV6, please be sure to come back and share your buying experience in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. Please give the video a like, share your comments below, and subscribe to the Driver Download.